What is about to happen does not belong to the simple flow of human events. There are moments in history when everything seems to converge toward a precise point, an instant that cannot be ignored. The words spoken in the silence of Medjugorje have crossed decades, reaching men and women of every continent without ever losing their strength. Time seems to tighten, as if what had remained veiled must reveal itself with greater clarity. In this scenario, the presence of Father Petar assumes a weight that many had perceived, but which now appears more evident than ever. His figure was not chosen by chance, but rather placed within a design that is unfolding step by step. Many have underestimated the intensity of certain announcements coming from the Hill of Apparitions, but those who have listened carefully know that these were not generic words or vague warnings. Medjugorje has never been a place of soft phrases, but a place of change. Every message has always contained a direction, a push, a movement towards something greater than us. And it is precisely here that Father Petar's mission fits in, destined for a task that does not belong to ordinary life. To him will fall an announcement that will separate the time of waiting from the time of fulfillment. This is not a symbolic assignment, but a true calling that will bring global consequences. The tradition linked to the secrets of Medjugorje has always spoken of a decisive moment, a moment when what has been guarded until today will be communicated without possibility of return. This moment approaches like a footstep echoing in the night, imperceptible yet unmistakable. The choice of a humble priest, constant, faithful to the mission entrusted to him, only confirms the importance of his function. Father Petar is not an interpreter, not a spiritual leader chosen by men, but the custodian of a task defined from above. While the world continues to run toward noise, there exists a point of light that calls to those who have ears to hear. This point is Medjugorje, and from there comes an announcement that cannot be ignored. The words that will soon be spoken will not be simple information, but an urgent invitation to read what is already happening around us. Father Petar will be the voice, but not the origin. The origin is higher and is preparing to make itself heard with growing strength. The truth that is approaching is not a symbol, nor a spiritual language to be interpreted. It is an event that follows a line already traced long ago, a thread stretched between heaven and earth that now begins to vibrate with greater force. Not everything will manifest in a single instant, but every signal that is emerging clearly indicates that a decisive passage is now imminent. Many have perceived the air changing, a sense of grave and silent waiting that envelops the world, as if humanity were held on the edge of something that can no longer be postponed. In this scenario, the places that will be struck with greater harshness begin to take shape clearly. Not because someone has chosen them, but because their wounds and their imbalances have drawn upon themselves inevitable consequences. There are regions where the weight of human choices has carved an enormous distance between what is right and what has been permitted. Western Europe, particularly France, carries within itself a tension that can no longer be ignored. The expected events will not touch it only on the material level, but above all spiritually, as if the light that once illuminated its history had been suffocated by a long shadow, and this shadow is about to be broken with force. Italy, too, a land crossed by grace and prophecy, will find itself facing a purification that will arrive with surprising intensity. It will not be a senseless punishment, but a powerful reminder, capable of shaking consciences that have remained asleep for too long. Beyond European borders, the United States is also preparing for an impact that will leave a deep mark. The path that the country has undertaken has led it toward a breaking point, and what is about to manifest will be a call that will shake the roots that seemed solid. It will not be a political or social matter, but spiritual, a shock destined to bring man back before the fundamental question of who really guides history. And while these great territories will be tested, the Middle East will also experience one of its hardest moments. That land, always a theater of conflicts and promises, will see a fire ignite that does not belong only to human tensions, but to the design that has crossed it for centuries. It will not be a sudden intervention, but the inevitable consequence of a balance broken for too long. The reason these places will be struck does not lie in an act of condemnation, but in an urgent need to restore order, truth, and light where confusion has reigned for too long. The purification that is about to arrive is not an annihilation, but a gesture of severe mercy. In every age, when humanity has moved too far from its center, extraordinary events have brought the world back to a deeper awareness. Now this cycle is about to repeat itself with an intensity never experienced by living generations. Medjugorje had anticipated that a time would come when the distance between man and God would no longer be sustainable. That time is at hand. And while Father Pedar prepares for his role, history prepares to bend toward a point that can no longer be ignored. It is not fear that is required, but vigilance. The places that will be struck hard, France, Italy, the United States, the Middle East, represent not only wounded geographies, but symbols of a humanity that has lost its direction. The apocalyptic manifestation that is approaching is not an announcement of destruction, but the beginning of a great reordering, a restoration of truth beyond accumulated illusions. Everything that is happening fits into a larger design, a design that Medjugorje has whispered for decades and that now takes shape with greater clarity. This is not just any time. It is the prelude to what has been promised, announced, and awaited. And when it happens, every place touched will recognize that nothing was random and that this passage, however hard, was necessary to prepare what will come after. The United States will enter a phase that will mark a before and after in its spiritual history. It will not be a superficial impact, but a fracture that will tend to awaken what has remained dormant for too long. The areas that will be touched with greater intensity are not random, because each of them carries a deep wound that now emerges as an inevitable knot in the purification process announced for years. The East Coast, the West Coast, and some central regions are accumulating a weight that can no longer be ignored. The United States is advancing toward a decisive point in its spiritual history, a point where what has been hidden for a long time will begin to emerge with a clarity that no one can ignore. For decades, that country has represented power, influence, cultural and technological dominance, but beneath the surface, a crack has developed that now widens as a sign of what is about to manifest. This is not a sudden punishment, but the fruit of a path that has progressively distanced the nation from its deepest root. The regions that will be struck with particular intensity are symbolic places, nerve centers that reflect the contradictions of modern America. What will happen in them will not be random, but part of a larger process, inserted in that design of purification that so many spiritual messages have anticipated. New York represents the gateway to a world built on autonomy and the illusion of invincibility. For man, it is the beating heart of the global economy, the city that never sleeps. In its continuous movement, however, the sense of divine presence has been lost. The blow that will reach it will act as a sudden suspension, a halt to the rhythm that sustained its image of strength. It will not only be a material event, but a passage that will highlight the fragility of a city that has supported itself on an unstable equilibrium, made of power, market, and frenzy. The impact will be a severe call to recognize what has been ignored for too many years, a spiritual shock that will also affect those who no longer believe in the dimension of the sacred. Los Angeles, on the opposite side of the country, harbors another form of vulnerability. The city of image, fame, illusion, and global narrative has moved away from truth, offering the world a model of freedom that has often transformed the soul into spectacle. The event that will touch it will act as a revelation of its inner cracks. It will be a moral and social fracture that will challenge the narrative that Hollywood has spread for decades, a narrative that has influenced entire generations. Los Angeles will feel a weight that will bring out the need for a deep purification, not as punishment, but as a necessary clearing in a place where spirituality has often been replaced by the image of oneself. San Francisco will experience something different still, linked both to the land on which it stands and to the cultural spirit it has embodied. The city sits on geological faults, but also on spiritual faults. It has been the cradle of movements that have profoundly transformed society, often distancing it from the sense of the divine. What will strike it will act as a total shock, capable of bringing to its knees securities considered indestructible. It will be a revelation that passes through a natural and social upheaval together, a vibration that will bring down consolidated certainties and force many to look beyond the surface of modern convictions. Chicago carries a different burden, the fruit of its social tensions and historical divisions. It has long been the symbol of American contradictions, between wealth and poverty, between order and violence, between stability and chaos. The impact that it will have the nature of a blade descending into the heart of the country, highlighting the inability to continue along a path that has ignored the spiritual dimension of community. It will be a time of unveiling, a time when internal fragilities will emerge forcefully to show that no social structure can stand without an authentic root. New Orleans instead represents a cycle that returns to close. The city still bears the mark of ancient and deep wounds, never completely healed. What will arrive will be like a call that returns after a long silence. Its geographical position, its history of crises and rebirths, its wounded spirituality mixed with complex traditions make it particularly vulnerable. The impact that will touch it will resemble a return of restrained waves, an event that does not arrive suddenly but concludes a journey begun long ago. These 5 places represent not only cities, but archetypal figures of the American condition. New York shows the illusion of strength. Los Angeles shows the illusion of image. San Francisco shows the illusion of revolution without foundation. Chicago shows the illusion of human order disconnected from the divine. New Orleans shows the illusion of being able to repair ancient wounds without true conversion. Each of these places will be crossed by a different impact, but all will converge toward the same revelation. Nothing can remain as it was. It will be a time of trial that precedes a time of light, a painful but necessary passage, part of the process that will lead to the fulfillment of the announcements of Medjugorje and to the truth that Father Petar is preparing to reveal. In all of this, there is no condemnation, but a mercy that operates through disequilibrium to bring the world back to its origin.